Dear adventurers and aspiring dungeon masters, welcome to Behind the Screen, your cozy corner of the Kobold Guild, where we peel back the layers of storytelling and dice-rolling magic. I'm Sophia, your host, also known as the Clever Kobold. Today, we're diving into one of my favorite topics, crafting a one-shot adventure. If you're like me, you might begin with the smallest spark of inspiration. Often, I start with a single word, or even just a monster's name. For instance, the upcoming creatures you'll meet later this month, Thingamajiggy and Big Clank Daddy, began as fleeting ideas. They might even be scrapped before the final draft, but for now, they're the seeds of something exciting. From there, I build outwards. What kind of world would these creatures inhabit? What motivates them? And how do the adventurers fit into their story? It's a little like weaving a tapestry, starting with a single thread and letting it guide you to the bigger picture. But creativity doesn't happen in a vacuum, does it? I'm constantly bouncing ideas off my friends, many of whom double as my players. They're my willing test subjects, my co-creators, and, occasionally, the first to tell me when something simply doesn't work. Their input helps refine these ideas into adventures that feel alive. Building a one-shot isn't about having everything planned from the start. It's about exploration, flexibility, and yes, a little chaos. Because, as every dungeon master knows, the dice and the players have a way of surprising you. Over the course of this episode, I'll share some of my go-to strategies for turning that tiny spark into a full-fledged adventure. We'll also chat about the art of balancing structure with improvisation, because the best stories are the ones that grow organically. So, pour yourself a cup of tea or perhaps something stronger and join me as we delve into the delightful art of one-shot creation. And remember, in this guild, no idea is too small or too strange. After all, the best adventures often begin with the wildest ideas. Let's get started. So, let's talk about that starting point, the humble seed of an adventure. For me, it's often a monster, like our aforementioned Thingamajiggy. Now, the name alone sparks curiosity. What is a Thingamajiggy? A clockwork contraption, a mischievous fae, a creature whose true form is only revealed under moonlight. The beauty of starting with a monster is that it automatically invites questions. Who created it? Why does it exist? What does it want? And how does it interact with the world? It doesn't matter if you don't have all the answers yet. Start with what excites you and build from there now. Some of you might be thinking, what if I get it wrong? What if my players don't like it? And here's where your community comes in. I always encourage DMs to find their sounding boards. For me, that's my players and friends. I'll casually float an idea their way, often under the guise of friendly banter. Hey, what do you think about an adventure where a creature can control time, but it only affects inanimate objects? Their reactions, whether laughter, intrigue, or confusion, help me gauge whether I'm onto something special or need to rethink it. In fact, some of my best ideas have come from these conversations. Players might suggest a twist or bring up something I hadn't considered. And the best part, they feel even more invested in the story when they see their fingerprints in the final product. Once I have the core concept, I start sketching out the framework. A one-shot, by design, is compact, so I aim for a structure that feels satisfying within a few hours. Usually, that means 3 acts. The hook. The players are drawn in with a compelling reason to act. Maybe it's a stolen artifact, a strange disappearance, or a simple help-wanted poster. The twist. Something that turns their expectations on their head. Perhaps the monster isn't the true threat, or their actions trigger an unforeseen consequence. The climax, a high-stakes encounter that ties the adventure together, and within those acts, I leave plenty of room for improvisation. My notes are never set in stone because, as every DM knows, Players have an uncanny knack for doing the unexpected. That's part of the joy, watching them turn your carefully laid plans into something entirely unique. Let's talk about tools. I'll let you in on a secret. I love building from constraints. Sometimes I'll challenge myself to use a random encounter table, or I'll pull an idea from a pre-written module and reimagine it to fit my world. Constraints force you to be creative in unexpected ways, and they can be a great cure for writer's block. Now we're reaching the end of today's episode, and I hope you're feeling a spark of inspiration to create your own adventures. Whether it's starting with a monster, a quirky setting, or even just a stray thought, trust that it can grow into something truly magical. Today, I shared a little of my process. How I love to start small and let ideas unfold. How my players are my trusted co-creators. And how flexibility and collaboration can transform even the simplest concept into an unforgettable story. But enough about me. Now I want to hear from you. What gets your creativity flowing? What sparks your ideas for adventures? Join the conversation by commenting below, following me on social media, and share your stories. I'd love to hear what's brewing in your world. And if you're enjoying this journey behind the screen, why not join the Kobold Guild on Patreon? It's a wonderful way to support the podcast and get access to monthly one-shots, unique monsters, and plenty of other goodies to inspire your next game. Plus, it's the perfect way to join our growing community of storytellers and adventurers. Thank you so much for spending this time with me. Next episode, we'll be diving into one of my favorite topics, crafting NPCs that your players will adore, despise, and always remember. Until then, may your dice roll true, your ideas flow freely, and your stories bring joy to all who share in them. I can't wait to hear from you. Keep your torches lit, your treasures safe, and remember, there's always a little kobold magic in every adventure.